Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders is hosting its Southern Africa Regional Conference. This is the flagship program in the Young African Leadership Initiative, which was started by former U.S. President Barack Obama in 2010. To tell us more, we're joined by one of the fellows, Kakoma Mutenda, who is with us in studio. Kakoma, welcome to studio this evening. You're a very accomplished young African by anyone's standards, quite a background in biofuels, waste management industries, a passion for science and technology. Just tell us exactly how you have fallen into the program.
Well, I fall into the program. I applied for the program. It was advertised all over social media, Facebook and Twitter and everything. And basically, it's a program that's meant to develop young African leaders. And I felt that I benefit greatly from this program by exposure to U.S. universities, the training and faculty that you could get there, the exposure to U.S. companies, and also exposure to my fellow young Africans who could also be doing bigger and greater things than myself.
So when do you head off for Washington?
Well, I'm actually an alumni. I was in Washington. I was in the U.S. last year. That was June to August 2016. And we came back in August, and we are completing our fellowship year. We are transitioning now into alumni, and the 2017 fellows have been selected. They should be leaving for the U.S. About mid of this month, 16th.
This is fantastic. So tell us what the last year has been like.
Wow, it's been a phenomenal year. We went to the U.S. We spent 6-7 wonderful weeks. I was at Rutgers University in New Jersey. I was with 49 other young African leaders from across the continent, from countries that, well, of course I've heard about, but never really knew much more than the name. Fellows from Chad, from Djibouti, from Guinea-Conakry, and other less well-known countries. And we forged friendships, lifelong networks, and business relationships, business contacts, partnerships, collaborations. We learned a lot from each other. You go to the fellowship thinking that you're an accomplished young leader, as you put it, only to find other even more accomplished young leaders. And so it's also a humbling experience at times. It's an encouraging experience as well, that you can see what other young people are doing across the continent. It gives you hope that all is not lost for Africa when you can see fellow young people doing great things and the potential that's in them to become future leaders.
Kakoma, what do you feel you've brought back that you can infuse into future projects you're involved in, as a businessman or otherwise?
Okay, well, the exposure to the U.S. obviously was a wonderful and unique experience. Every country, every people, every culture has something that they contribute, a unique contribution to the global ecosystem. We have our own culture and what we contribute, and the U.S. and the way of doing things, their history, how they've progressed and developed in business, in science, technology, innovation. So there's a lot that we can learn from the U.S. that we can bring back here. But at the same time, there's also a lot that we shouldn't forget that we can learn from our own people and culture here in Africa. So it's about getting the best of both worlds. So there's an American style of business, there's an American aggressiveness in doing things. I think personally for me, I was taken aback by the amount of money that the U.S. businesses, private businesses, invest in research and development. And when you look at the percentage of funding for science and technology, whether from the public sector or from the private sector in Africa, it's quite a huge difference. So that's one of the many things that I came back with.
How do you balance that? I mean, you've now had this international experience. You've also had a very African experience. Speaking to your fellow Africans and gleaning their knowledge. What do you think is the balance as an African leader?
That's a very good question, because earlier today, when we opened our regional conference and I gave the opening address, I shared a story about a story of Rabia, a woman who supposedly lost a needle, and her neighbors were helping her, look for that needle in the street. And then they asked her, look, it's getting dark, the street is big, tell us where you lost the needle so that we can help you find it. She said, I lost the